Going live. All right. All right. Oh, by the way, you don't have to answer this anything here, but yeah, we are live in the pre-show, guys. So let's get going here. And welcome to Mastering Metals. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. My fellow stackers, this is episode 23 of Mastering Metals. I'm Yankee, your host. Tonight, 3 amazing guests with us, starting with this empty chair right here. Tim Marsher of the Coin and Stamp Shop in Manchester, New Hampshire. He's late, and I called him, and he's going to show up, but we're going to keep going without him. And as soon as he shows up, this is right where he's going to be sitting. And he'll join me in studio. But joining us remotely are Cole Keller, SD Bullion's Chief Operating Officer, and James Anderson, SD Bullion's Senior Market Analyst. Guys, good to see you here.
Hey, Yankee. Thanks for having us again.
Yeah, I feel a little stood up, but I understand what Tim's going through right now. In fact, when he gets here, I'm sure I told him, I said, when you get here, I want to hear a little bit of what's happening in that coin shop, because this week is probably going to be another crazy one for him. Actually, it might be. Has it been a crazy one for you guys?
Yeah, we continue to see just there's more interest last week and the last 2 weeks probably in whenever people are buying from us.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, the last 6 months plus across the industry, also related to us, has just been a wave of people selling back. A lot of times these folks start in shops like Tim's,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever it is they have that's local to them, and that makes its way upstream, or we get the call directly, or a number of other dealers do, and yeah, so it's kind of flipped the industry once again. We've had a couple flips of this industry in the last 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and it's flipping again. I mean, it'll flip again probably in 18 months. Who knows? But there's always opportunity to add value, but it's not necessarily the best time to sell unless you pick the perfect product.
Yeah, I'll let Tim answer this for me, but he was on the phone with me earlier today, and I think this line stood out to me. He said that several buyers were saying, quote, "I can't wait any longer." They've been on the sidelines. They've been holding on to fiat currency, the dry powder, and they've been waiting and waiting and waiting. And, I thought there'd be a correction by now. I really did think, and I think James last time we had Mastering Metals, we thought about when that correction was going to come. It hasn't seemed to come. This is crazy. We're seeing gold and silver on heaters. I mean, they are flying.
Right.
I don't know. Have you seen this before? And isn't there usually a pause, sort of like a pullback? People.
So in a bullion bull market, generally by definition the surprises are usually to the upside. So when we were talking, we were seeing a wedge, especially on the gold chart, that had kind of consolidated sideways for about 5 months in a range.
Right.
And when you see a move like that, technically it's got to make a move either down or up. We speculated maybe the Russian Ukraine peace deal something may come, and that may be a way for the shorts to bomb it out. And that didn't come, obviously. It went the other way. And so, it is what it is. Eventually we'll probably end up, revisiting the 200-day, and we'll talk about that later. But for now, it's up and go. It's running, and silver's looking good too. So lots to talk about.
Yeah, year to date, look at that climb. That is truly remarkable. And again, I still expect it to, give up some of its gains, and that would be okay. It would let people maybe get in on a better price point. But right now, it just doesn't seem to be happening here. I listened to your Friday video, James, very intently. What's going on? And your first point was that the mainstream media's focus was now squarely on silver and gold. What were some of their reasons for this rise in precious metals?
So it seems like, they'll give a bunch of curveball topics about, tariffs and Trump with the Fed and stuff like that. I really don't think that's what it is. Really what this major move has been over the last year and a half is the realization that the structure is kind of changing in the system. And, there's a big move out of bonds and into gold, especially with emerging market central banks. And I think high net worth is really moving into gold now. And I think they kind of get that bigger picture. Right. And then the conversation in the Bloomberg piece, it was two of them. The first one we kind of jumped because Max Slayton, it wasn't his best day in that interview, so we didn't even bother. We moved on to another where the guy, I don't remember his name, unfortunately, but he did a good job of illustrating, what's going on in the macro level. The fact that foreign central banks now have more gold than they have U.S. Treasuries. And an announcer who heard that was like, wow, I didn't know that, So the other guy's like, silver's up 40% this year. He was like shocked, So yeah, it's a stealth bull market still, but the high net worth people are starting to find that out. And this isn't people who are going to be buying gold and flipping it at 4,500. I think they see more in the sense of, if you're a higher net worth investor, you probably have an understanding that there are cycles and that gold eventually has its time. And I think we're step-toeing into that time frame for gold.
For those of you just joining us right now, we do have an empty seat right there waiting for Tim to fill. I'm also watching on my cameras, make sure I can see when he's coming. But so don't go anywhere when he gets here. There's a lot of questions that he actually has for you, Cole. And I do want to introduce you formally to James and have him maybe ask whatever questions he has for what's going on. But the other thing that I'm excited about, guys, is that we're going to talk tonight about this, the Yankee Tim Silver round. And this has been just a wonderful, exciting round that people are going gaga over. I have some questions on that. I want to actually walk through the process with you, Cole, talk about how the design features came to, how the whole process works, how we designed it, what does it take to bring a round like that to fruition, and what you guys had to go through. But I really will be talking about that. I wanted Tim here for that, though. I don't want to do that without him. So whenever he shows up, that's when we'll start talking about that round. So guys, don't go anywhere. There's going to be some fun there. And also open Q&A. I'll open that up later on in the podcast so you guys can ask questions as well. But let's get back to the markets. You mentioned in your video, James, or actually showed a video of the finance minister from India, I believe. And they were talking about central bank gold buying. How significant is that with India?
I mean, the fact that point blank on their CNBC channel, she's saying that we're already doing it. I'm not going to go into details about exactly how and all that, but they're divesting out of U.S. Treasuries and moving more into gold. And she just said it explicitly, and India is it's a major economy. It's a country with 1 billion people, and it's emerging, and it's going to keep growing the decades coming. So, and that's just one of the emerging markets. This is happening with dozens and dozens of them. And so, yeah, it is what it is. We are moving out of, and it's been for 4 or 5 years now. But U.S. Treasuries and bonds have been in a bear market, and bullion over bond trade, it probably will last for decades. I mean, you have a situation where you went through a bond bull market from 1980 to 2020. So that's 40 years. So it stands to reason that the bear market would follow for at least a decade or two. And given the fundamentals of the debt in the U.S. and the unfunded liabilities, I would imagine this is a trade that goes on for decades.
Charts. You showed some really interesting ones. One was, and I don't have it on me right now, but just speak to the price of silver in Canadian dollars. Are we at all-time record highs there?
Yeah, I think today we might have gotten right near it. I was looking at that data because the chart I was using shows a monthly chart. So the spike in 1980 may be a little understated on that one that I showed video. Yep. So I went and did a little AI search on it. And, AI worked it out, given the Canadian US dollar exchange rate at the time. It said something like 57 and change, and we hit 57 and change today. So, I mean, you can essentially say that the, silver nominal price in Canada is now, if it hasn't broken out yet, it's going to in a matter of days, so long as silver keeps rising. So, and that's a very powerful thing on long-term charts. When you see that big U shape and finally to a new price paradigm, and generally it runs for a while when that happens, and it goes up, and if it ever does come back down, it does it only later on, and it does it briefly, and then it'll go back up and go higher, to a new paradigm in pricing.
One chart I do have, I want to share with people if you haven't seen it. You've shared this, James, I think twice now on your Friday videos, right? This one, I had to stare at this one for a while. I actually sent this off to Tim too because I wanted as many people. And I actually shared this with a guy doing some landscaping work for me because he was talking to me like, Yankee, I feel like I need another place to put my wealth, and and I'm worried about the stock market. What do you think? And I'm like, he doesn't know much. And I was like, oh, okay. Have you ever thought about gold and silver? He said, yeah, what about treasuries? I'm like, And I sent this to him later on, and he's like, wow.
Right.
That screams.
Right. So the chart you're describing says at the top, foreign central banks hold more gold than treasuries. Now, just think about that. That means every central bank other than the Federal Reserve, they tend for a long time to hold U.S. treasuries as their main asset class. No longer. That changed, and that last time it was, the situation where they had more gold than treasury bonds was in the mid 1990s and in the 80s and 70s. So what you're seeing is a step change in the mechanics of what they hold in their balance sheets, and it's rising precipitously. I mean, the line is going vertical, so it's telling you things are changing. So what I tell people when I see this chart, it's going to likely become a U shape. Right now, it's starting to go up in that U, but it's just barely moving up, but it's going pretty vertical. You can tell that that's the trend, and that it's likely going back toward the levels it was in the 70s. And to do that, you need a tripling of the gold price, essentially, if they don't buy more gold, right, from here to there. So, you're talking 5-figure gold, essentially. That's what it calls for if you look at the chart.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. What about the jobs report that came out too? I was studying those numbers a bit. The revisions, especially with July,
Right.
that had
Trump's
to be an impact, right?
And Trump's guy didn't get in there to rig them well enough. So they
He said next year they're going to be legit, though. He said next year all the numbers will be right.
Sure. The one thing I found interesting was that Canada's was so terrible. Canada's was negative 65,000. So I think Canada is they're the leading indicator at the moment, and we'll probably follow them up in a little bit of time. But Canada seems it's going in recession, and it's just probably a matter of time before we have to have some recession. We haven't had one in a long, long time. So yeah, we're kind of tiptoeing toward it. And yeah, it wasn't good. It was dollar bearish, and so gold and silver kind of did okay when that poor report came out on Friday. And so yeah, I mean it's it was just, it's one of those things where you have and that's consecutive. We keep getting bad jobs reports, and that's signaling recession. In a recession, what you'll end up seeing is a lot of flows out of the stock market and into gold. And so that's
Wow.
possibly what we're seeing right now.
Of course, at some point, the Fed is going to make their move. And
Yeah.
it's beginning to look like that sooner rather than later. I think that the trial balloon went up. They're going to cut. Now,
Yeah.
that's probably already factored in, no?
I mean, it'd be Jackson Hole is pretty important.
Right.
That's more or less what helped us break out of this wedge to the upside, I think. The fact is that, yeah, they're going to come in with whatever firepower they have to. And I know people have doubts that they won't be able to drive down the long end of the curve, but I'm pretty confident the 10 and 30 years are going to get driven down one way or another. And they'll use all types of different ways to do it, but they will drive it down at some point. And so I would expect if you came back this time next year, interest rates will be a lot lower, and they'll be spinning a lot of plates and special purpose vehicles offshore. The New York Fed probably doing all types of things, but they'll get it down one way or another.
All right, let's talk about that 200-day moving average you and I were chatting about before we launched here. Did you told me that is now over 3,000?
Yeah, it got over 3,000, and that was back when we were kind of second guessing whether or not we break to the bottom on the wedge and go downward back toward roughly 3,000 where it was when we were talking last time. Now it's risen precipitously quick. It's now at 3,080. And, you stay up in the 3,600 range of gold for a few more weeks. I mean, it's going to start rising quickly. So to see it rise to like, say, 3,300 in a matter of weeks, month, it would be, that's kind of how it would work.
That's kind of how it worked with 2,000, no?
Yeah. I mean, but the thing is like, if it goes up to 33, 3,400, you're probably never going to see a chance to get gold bullion below 3,000 again, no matter what comes, So that's kind of what it does. It gives you that market change of knowing like, yeah, 3,000's gold is now relatively cheap, and 4,000's is probably inevitable maybe next year.
And silver. What is that GSR right now at?
Still high, and that's great because that just tells you got a lot of fuel. I mean, you have a GSR at spot 88, right? I mean, that is incredible because, and the one thing when I'm looking at the silver chart, there is a gap, and usually you have to go back and fill that gap. There's a gap between a high 39 and the low 40. And so we're probably going to bull market up a little bit longer here, but I would expect that it'll come back down and test that 40 and probably dip briefly into 39s one more time before making it surge back above 40 and marching back upward. So if someone's sitting there, twiddling their thumbs thinking, I got to get silver right away. If you don't have a position, get some position. But if you're someone who has a position already and you have time on your side, I think a retest below 40 is going to occur at some point. It's just a question of how and when.
That's dramatic. So people,
one other thing.
Yep.
When you look at the old 2011s, like 2011 when it bounced, you have to respect those candles. Like 42 is important psychologically, 43 and change is important, and then 44 is important. So you have a bunch of steps here coming up that we have to clear before we can actually take a run at 50 again. So there's probably going to be some fighting from between 44 and below 40, I would imagine, in the coming weeks and months.
You still focus on buying silver?
I am. I got something today. I got this this cool 10-ounce skull bar.
Wow.
Pretty sweet. I'm gonna play around with it and probably put some, I'll probably color it a little bit, maybe oxidize it some, and
Okay.
see what I can do for Halloween. Show it off.
I want more of these.
Oh yeah, there he is.
If I can get there, he is. Well, yeah, I should probably just put this right on the seat so that we have something to look at. I mean, come on, Tim. I feel bad for him because he said on the phone, the customers were just flooding his store today. So I just want to ask him. I'm watching my camera, seeing when he pops in here, but I want to understand that you and I were talking, James, before we went live. I maybe even before Cole showed up, I was saying to Tim back when silver was below 30, I said, Tim, what is going to happen when silver breaks 40? And he unequivocally said they're all going to sell. I've seen it before. It's all going to sell. I'm like, really? You don't think with the macroeconomic realities, the debt, and all the things that are going on, we would not see FOMO kick in? People go, oh my word, I need to start buying. I said, no. And then I asked him on my last video, I was like, what's happening? He said, surprisingly, people are buying. And I was in with people there in the shop. They were lining up, and most of them were buying. Some were selling, and the ones that were desperately didn't want to. In fact, somebody emailed me right after that video dropped and sent me a document. He said, Yankee, this is why it's happening. I don't know if I have it handy, but basically it was the delinquencies for car loans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Through the roof, especially with the subprime. That was bad. And he said people in the email he was sent me, he said people are in trouble. They're hurting and they need money, cash. Right. Even though silver and gold are real money, they need the fiat currency to do their transactions, to pay their debts and bills. So it's that, I think, is what we're seeing. People forced to sell, but a lot of people still buying.
Right. Yeah, it's a confluence of them both. I think you're right. The average stacker, maybe, it's a question like you don't want to be in debt if you can possibly get out of consumer debts and, not have big overhead and, you have your dry powder and bullion, and you never want to get in a situation where you're forced to sell your bullion, but sometimes life comes at you and you got to do it. So that, right, I think is what's happening for a lot of these reports that we're seeing small sales. What I want to ask a couple things of Tim is, like, I know he worked at IBM prior, and like, right, when did he start in his business? What year?
Yeah, 35 years ago. Yep.
35. Okay, so he's been through some cycles.
He has.
And then and the other thing is just simply like, okay, so the people who are selling back to you, like, in what lots and what sizes? Like, are these people showing up with 5 cases of silver eels, like, on it, I'm done, I'm out, this is good price? Like, no, I highly doubt that. It's probably a couple tubes here or there. It right? is.
It's onesie twosies. In fact, right, again, just the other day when I was in there, I witnessed it. I watched as a few people were selling a few bars, some silver rounds, maybe a tube, and then he gets a phone call from somebody who buys 2 monster boxes like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. So, I mean,
Cole knows that 80% of your revenue coming from 20% of your biggest buyers. So that's generally how it works.
Yeah. You guys were talking about the big buyers. We've seen some of that. There was a close to 9-figure deal that there was some work being done on, involvement in, and generally speaking, that was someone buying. And there's plenty of people that have, you name it, but the average order value on the buybacks, kind of what we use to describe it internally, whenever we're buying it back off the street.
Are you almost here?
That's higher than their average order for sure whenever you're selling material in the retail public by, probably
another 15.
So it weeds it out. Some of the small guys, guys. Some of the
we're going to do our
20,
Q&A over the next 15, and then we'll talk
Maybe
about the
those
silver
folks
round.
have different objectives.
We're live right now, but
different cash needs.
We'll bring you in. They have questions for you. They're like, can't wait to meet Tim.
That probably wouldn't mean you sell it to someone online.
I'll bring you in.
Someone a little bit upstream.
Right now, it's an empty chair.
In general, we are seeing a little bit of new interest in terms of people buying, but the main headline still, because we had the largest coin show every year is the ANA, which
there we go.
All
right, I'll see you when you get here.
Oklahoma
Thanks,
City.
man.
Most years or every other year, generally speaking, it's held in Chicago. Yankee, I'm not sure if you're aware of that or if any people watching ever want to go, but it's pretty cool if you're in the space. It's like any convention. There's a big convention center, but there's it feels like thousands, probably comfortably hundreds of tables that set up, people that operate a shop basically just like Tim, that want to take $500,000 to $1 million worth of stuff and sell it there. Maybe they do some buying as well. But we use that as an opportunity just to kind of meet with most of our key relationships, because everyone kind of aggregates. And really the consensus was basically everyone in the space. I wouldn't put us in that bucket, but a lot of the other people, a lot of the other businesses, the only place they're actually making any money and keeping the lights on right now are recycling material and selling it into refineries. And refineries are so backed up that they've now issued notices to people saying, people that they have standard weekly standing orders,
Mm-hmm.
they're saying, don't send us any silver. We don't want to refine your silver.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always this yin and yang of, yes, a market should operate efficiently, and from an economic standpoint, it usually does. But with precious metals, whenever there's these various choke points in minting and distribution and refining and raw material and then the exchanges, there's a lot of things that go into each one of those variables. And if one thing kind of starts to crack, it can really cripple the rest. And so what you're seeing now is people being inventory rich, cash poor in general across the space. So what does that mean if I'm a customer watching it? I don't really care. Cheap premiums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because most people are really wanting to sell it, and you see we're selling half dollars, 90% half dollars, which usually carry a nice healthy low premium. We're selling them at spot in our deals page, and we have quite a bit that we'd be willing to offer at that. So it's a unique kind of opportunity. If you're not in the sell mode, if you're in the buy mode, you can't ask for a better environment for premiums, because we may have a couple spot offers a week, and that's not because we're desperate to just get it off our hands, hot potato it. We probably bought it back a spot, which tells you if the guy walking in Tim's shop is selling it, he's having to sell it well back a spot, because that's just what the market is. And if I'm a big player, or if I'm SD Bullion and I'm wanting to take on a big position of someone that's offering me $20 million of silver that they're holding, well, I don't necessarily want to hold it because I can't necessarily sell it that quickly. Well, what's my option? Usually you just go sell it and refine it and you get cash for it. But the refineries are saying, not so fast, we won't even answer your call. We don't want to accept that business. So it's really tricky.
It'd be interesting to know, and I've never seen a study done in North America or in the United States. I wonder what the throughput is in terms of what's the capacity of these refiners combined in terms of ounces. What can they move in a year or a quarter? You know, that would be an interesting thing to know.
I have theories, but there's fewer silver refiners than there are gold. And whenever you're a refiner, if things get tight, you just really want to be messing with gold. Gold's much easier. It's way more efficient. And silver is less efficient. There's more byproduct. Gold is a little bit, you can service banks. Those are a little bit easier clients, generally speaking. You don't have to worry about counterparty risk as much. The money's just easier. You can sit there and say, guess what? You owe me $10 million for this. And they'll be like, okay, fine. We'll find a way to make it happen. And then, we talk about 90% silver. This is why I kind of personally like buying and educating people about 90%, because it's such a cyclical thing. But 90% is one of the least efficient to refine. So the bids on that are way lower than you would expect, because there's all this byproduct and it takes a lot of cost, it takes overhead, it takes time to do all this. And then there's other materials in that just, for lack of a better term, kind of make the refining lot dirty. They basically melt it all, and then it's not just pure silver sitting there naturally. There's other stuff in there. What do you do? There's a sovereign mint that was saying at the a big one that everyone would know, that was saying in whenever we were meeting in Oklahoma, they said before all this even started, before the selling boom cycle started, which let's call it like a year ago, they had rooms and offices completely full of just silver, sterling silver, all kinds of stuff that they had bought from their population, that they were working in the pipeline to refine and melt, and that it was coming in still by the truckload, and they have to say, like, stop buying this because there's nowhere to put it. We don't want it. We can't work it through our stuff. This isn't going to really pay the bills, us processing this inventory. So, I mean, that was before all this started. And now you have everyone being told it doesn't really matter the nature of your relationship or how much business you send that way. Too bad. And I know I'm kind of rambling. I find it interesting, but you guys would probably find this humorous. I did. I was talking to someone last week that was talking, we were getting off a call. He owns a different business, and he said, Well, I got to go. I got a guy threatening to come in here and sell me some metal. And I thought that's a perfect way to describe it
Threatening.
because
That's what Tim said. I've heard Tim said that in his
it's
shop.
exactly what it is. It's
Yeah.
threatening that I'm going to sell it.
Yep,
So
that's I've heard that. So, I got off the phone. I was muting the wrong mic. Sorry, guys. But Tim was on the phone with me, and I told him we just continued on. He is maybe, I don't know, 8 minutes out or somewhere around that. I know people just joining might go, why is there an empty chair? Well, Tim's going to join us. We are going to talk about the Yankee Tim round. We're going to talk about how it's made, what the process is. We have some questions, I'm sure, around that. But I wanted to get the Q&A going. So if you change it at the top of the chat, we can get the Q&A open up. People can ask questions of James or Cole or myself. And then, of course, when Tim shows up, you can pepper him with questions. So we got some questions coming in now. When will Yankee reach 200,000 subscribers? Dude, maybe by Halloween. Definitely by Halloween. I'm sure it's coming. And we've got a monstrous giveaway live stream coming up when that happens, guys. So thanks. Don't forget to subscribe.
That's 2 major football fields full of people. That's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. Okay, Ryan wants to know, how high is silver going to go up before it drops a little? Boy, man, if we knew that.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about it just technically, like you kind of have to go back to look at the 2011 candles and respect the numbers of like 42 psychologically. There's a spike back in 2011 at 43.20, and there's another spike at 44. So those are kind of the levels. And I know it's kind of strange that you would have to go back and look at 2011, but the technicians, that's what they do, and everybody kind of feeds around it. It's kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. So, 44 in this run, I can't imagine it going much further than that in this run before it has to go back down and retest 40. So we'll see. It's one of those things. It could happen. It could go up further. I feel like it'll go for a little bit higher still. We
Really?
broke above. Yeah, it broke above 41.50 today, and that was kind of really important to see it do that in such a quick manner. It shows that there's still strength there, I think.
I think we see, and I keep telling Tim this, higher lows. Back when, 6 months ago, we were like, wow, when is it, 38, 39, is that reachable? It could be back down to that. It's higher lows, 38, 39. We used to be like waiting to get there. I do think it is going to break below 40, and I think it's going to happen this week.
Okay.
That's my gut. My gut tells me the shorts are going to come screaming in at some point.
All right. So yeah, I'm going to.
But it won't last long.
I'm going to take the other side of that. I'm not necessarily putting any short-term trade on, but I was going to flip a coin. I'm going to go 42 somewhere that's going to happen this week. It feels like.
It just feels it, but I was wrong. Here's what is the ratio going to go to? Is it 50-1 unrealistic? Well, earlier I think James was saying it below that.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you look back at the 2011 gold and silver bull market, and that for me is a long-term target is the low 30s. I think that's pretty conservative because I assume we're going to go into a mania with this gold and silver bull market. And things get crazy in manias. They just do. And we're coming from some of the craziest top spot gold silver ratios you've ever seen. So generally in big long-term charts, when a market gets well over something that's out of whack, then it reverts and does something well lower out of whack. So I could make a case for 20s GSR, spot GSR and a peak. And, there's other people who talk about it even going lower than that possibly. But at a certain point, if you're trading that, you can't get too greedy. And Lord knows what the world will look like in that situation. But that's further out. That's something in the 2030s, I think.
Jane asks, should I cash my superannuation in and buy metals? Superannuation. I think that's a retirement account, like in Australia or something like that. It's a required account. So Jane's asking, should I cash it out, buy metals?
This is like a personal question. We can't give financial advice in that sense. It's a real question about your circumstances, what your age is, your timeline. What allocation do you already have to gold and silver? What allocation do you have to other liquid asset classes?
How old you are, your risk tolerance. There's a lot of things there.
There's a lot of questions. I mean, ultimately, gold and silver should do well in the United States versus bonds, it's already doing much better than bonds in the last 4 or 5 years, and ultimately we're gonna start eating into the stock market in real value terms. So
Mm-hmm.
I think gold will outperform stock market for the next 5-10 years. That's my thesis on the long run, and same with silver. And I mean, the potential for gold to outperform S&P 500 by a factor of 3 to 4 is pretty easy, pretty conservative in that duration. And silver could do 10 times in terms of buying power, the S&P 500 from here to say the mid 2030s. So, these are all questions about timeline. These are personal things. We can't tell
Right.
you what to do.
And Jane, I will say, I'm not sure this is your first time here on Mastering Metals, but we have a segment, retirement insights. Chase Turner, the CEO, usually speaks to us about how you can use a retirement account potentially to hedge with metals, real physical precious metals. You might want to check on that set, another Mastering Metals or a prior one to hear some of that. But again, there's a lot of factors involved with it. I believe that it makes sense to leverage retirement accounts if you can with physical precious metals. I think that's a smart move potentially. I know a lot of people don't feel that way, or maybe you don't even have the retirement account. So there's definitely options there for you to check into. Dennis Allen, can you film a video of a minting process? Oh, Dennis. I am working diligently to get to some places to show that. I have shown it on a small scale. Silver Dave's minting process up here in New Hampshire. I've shown that a few videos on that, but I want to see a big one soon. And Cole, I know you're not in the right position to say that, but I'm talking with Chase about this. I'm hoping Chase lines it up and I can actually do this.
Yeah, it is really really cool to be in there.
You've seen it.
Oh,
Many
I've
times.
seen plenty of them. Yeah, it gives you a lot of understanding and I guess grace whenever you're buying something. You understand
Mm-hmm.
it's ultimately like any other manufacturing process, a series of steps that require a lot of mechanical and a little bit of human input, and the end result is you're trying to get a good product at a low cost or low premium available to as many people as possible. So, this will come into play whenever we talk about the Yankee / Tim round, because there's always this give and take. But yeah, it's really cool to watch from beginning to end, especially if you start from a smelter or melter where you're starting with a batch of 1,000-ounce bars.
Jeremy Price said, "Are y'all planning on releasing a 2-ounce Proclaim Liberty bar?"
No plans, to be honest with you. Hadn't really considered it. In this market, it's in any sort of novelty bar, for lack of a better term. Our brand bars aren't really novelty, but because we stand behind them in a different way. But you certainly look them 4 or 5 times over before you just pull the trigger, because we kind of look to offer customers what we as buyers and investors ourselves would really prefer to be marketed, which is the best value. And our opinion is, generally speaking, the best value right now is pretty affordable on a premium perspective, secondary material, and a handful of new products that we feel are pretty daggone cool, like the Commander, like the Una the Lion, things like that.
Yep.
Truth Series is really cool. We got some big things planned for the Truth Series in the future. So, there's a handful of things like that, but no, just kind of another size silver bar, not necessarily the plan.
I see Tim pulling in.
Suspenseful.
I know, right? It's like this grand entrance. He's going to walk in and everyone's going to applaud or whatever.
Poor guy's going to have the spotlight on him. As soon as he sits down, you're going to be hitting him with a fire hose.
I know I will be.
Yeah.
He's so good at it. I'll tell you guys, it's kind of fun. 7 years ago when I first started videoing him, he was so uncomfortable in front of the camera. Now he just eats it up. He's like, yeah, no problem. I'm on.
Yeah.
I don't care. Let's see.
He's famous now.
He is internationally too, which is shocking to hear calls from all around the country when he gets, and around the world sometimes. So it's amazing. Let's see. James and Cole. What's your year-end predictions on gold and silver? I've given mine. I gave mine last December. It was.
I think I answered this
Yeah, you did.
a couple months back. I'm going to shoot from the hip. I think for gold, I had said something in the neighborhood of 3,600.
Yep.
And I think for silver, I was in the 34, 35 range.
Yes.
I could be way off, but that's what I said at the time. So I'm not going to, it would be a fool's errand to go ahead and try to revise that with updated information. So that's what I'm stuck with.
James?
Yeah, I think 4250 was what I was talking about last time for silver and gold. I figured we'd get beyond 3,500 before the year end. Whether or not it gets to 4,000 nominally, I don't think so. My guess would be that's not the base case. And then silver, I have doubts that it'll hit 50 this year. I think that's probably a next year thing, as long as we don't get some type of deflationary shocks.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just inevitable. You look around the world, virtually every single currency, like the Canadian dollar we were talking about, which is now getting past its nominal 1980 price high. So that's inevitable that we're going to get there and eventually go beyond it. And there'll probably be a big battle around 50, I'm sure. But whether or not
when do you see that coming into the purview, James?
There's people like Michael Oliver, who's a pretty good technician, who argues, and he's been trading COMEX futures since 1975 and gold since they were first legalized. He says that it happens this year, and because once silver gets really going, it gets going, and it just kind of leaves people in the dust. He thinks it happens this year. I've been through the 2010s. That's the hard part, is dropping the bear bias that we've had to suffer through for so long with silver, and kind of get a little bit more bullish and have your.
I'll be right back, guys. I'm going to let Tim in. Go on.
Yeah, and just simply have your bias a little bit more net long and bullish on the short term, and that's proven itself to be the right call in the last few months, to be a little bit more bullish.
Yeah. I kind of find myself, whenever I talk about it to other people in my life that will bring it up, that I kind of am hesitating, like the Charlie Brown Lucy thing, to sit there and say, here it is, the run has come. I'm just kind of waiting for that other shoe to drop subconsciously. But you're right, it's because the context of what we had 15 years ago, and what that trained us to do for the longest time. But I think the exemption list and the fact that it's now on, I think because the White House said 2 weeks ago that they added silver to their list of, they had a list of metals that they were going to make sure they had quite a bit of exposure to, strategic interest.
Yeah. The fact that they're now saying silver is a critical mineral is kind of important.
All right, let me start from the top, like I was expecting to introduce you to. You've met Cole before.
Yes.
You haven't met
Tim.
James, I don't believe, right?
No.
James?
Hey Tim, how you doing? I've seen you guys on YouTube for years now, and it's really nice to meet you. Real privilege to get to say hi.
James,
Appreciate that. Thank you, James.
James is the senior market analyst for SD Bullion.
Oh, okay.
So he's that macro economics, what's happening in the markets guy. And I think he has some questions for you. But before we get to the questions, I want to know what's going on in the shop. Something you said when you first walked in. What was it?
Well, yesterday was a very unusual day. There was people were coming in to buy
Get
gold.
the mic closer, Yankee.
Yeah,
Oh.
no, it's unfortunately I need to switch mics. I'll switch back and
Can
forth.
you hear me at all?
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, oh yeah, that
That's
was
better.
good.
That's better.
Yeah, I'll have to switch back and forth. Go ahead.
It was people coming in to sell all day long and people coming in to buy all day long. I had a line out the door almost all day. The people buying stuff actually did better than the people selling stuff. But today it started out the same way with a lot of people coming in to sell things, and then it ended up with a flurry. And I was supposed to close the store at 6. The last customer was out of there by maybe 8:15.
Wow.
And it's just going on and on. There are
Tim,
a lot
do you
of
ever
things.
have the,
Go ahead.
sorry to interrupt. Do you ever have, if you have people in the line to buy, people in the line to sell at the same point, do they ever just broker a deal while they're waiting and say, I'm buying, you're selling, so we figure something out?
that happened once, and I made it very clear that that's not proper etiquette when you're in somebody else's store. Thank you very
You
much.
want- Here, go ahead.
Sure. And I've had people talk about it, but I don't know if the word spread or something, but said, "Is it all right if I look at his coin?" I say, "Yeah, go ahead." But yeah, I've been at other coin dealers when somebody did that, and they reacted almost violently. So I just say it's that practice is frowned upon.
Sure. Yeah, I would expect. So. And also, there's a level of trust in buying from you or selling to you that they don't have to worry about counterparty risk per se. You know what you're looking at, whereas they may not.
Well, I mean, they're certainly going to get a lesson on whatever it is they're selling me, because I certainly don't want anyone going out of there thinking they got a bad deal. And it's amazing. Even a lot of the wholesalers aren't paying spot for gold coins now, which is kind of unusual. And I understand. I'm one of those people who thinks that the metals markets are being exploited by people who have a lot more money than we do, and it's got to change. What the groundwork is setting in place now to provide a great short. I'm just wishing they would get it over with.
We were just talking about that. James and I were saying this kind of feels like something big could happen. Maybe I even think it's going to drop below 40 this week. That was my thought. I expected it, though, Monday or Tuesday. It hasn't happened yet.
It has for the last 3 nights. I mean, the last three sessions. At night, it always goes down, both gold and silver, and then turns around for some reason. I don't think there's a whole lot of control. I mean, I remember the days when the CFTC used to regulate things like this. The only regulation I've seen so far is they're allowing futures contracts to trade in, 27 million ounces. That's hardly regulating a market. And go ahead.
I was going to say, one thing you're seeing a lot of is advertisements. The CME Group really wants to get retail back into their system, and they're marketing a lot of micro contracts for 1 ounce of gold, 10 ounces of gold. They want it, and they're doing partnerships with online gambling sports books. So they are really outreaching and trying to get retail into leveraged derivatives trading on short-term basis. That's their aim. That's what they're going for in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I've been using Yankee talked me into using an AI Googler.
Wait a minute, did I really?
Yeah, I watched you one day. It was very interesting information.
You can't trust it all the time, though, right?
Whatever that one was. Was it Chat something?
Chat GPT.
GPT. But it gave us all that information about Chinese mines, which is really shocking.
See, you can teach old dogs new tricks, guys. You really can.
Yeah.
No.
You can try anyway. But there are a lot of things that used to affect gold and used to affect silver that just don't work the way. And plus, we're hearing the nonsense. And I watch business channels like Bloomberg because they show the metals all the time. But it's the reasons for gold going up, which is getting to be shocking. And it was because of uncertainty with tariffs, the gold is taking another jump or something, another all-time high. And then somebody will say, some left-wing economists will say, well, all these successful negotiations over tariffs are resulting in strength to the dollar. The dollar gets stronger every time they. Wait a second. It used to be the dollar goes up, the metals go down. The stock market goes up, the metals go down. Whatever it is, it just they're using every excuse both for the metals to go up, both for gold to go up. What was the one we were talking about earlier? The other one, in anticipation of rates being cut in September.
Yes, rates cut. Yep.
Gold is going up. Explain that to me. Why would that be? I mean, it just everything is the same way for gold to go up,
Now,
which it makes no sense.
I do see this chart though with the U.S. dollar index, Tim. It's down
The
about
dollar index has
10%.
been precipitously down since the beginning of the year.
Yeah,
We were at
10% from the
109
beginning of the
and
year.
now we're down
Yeah.
at 97. So it's definitely the Trump administration wants a weaker dollar if they want to reshore. That's for sure. That seems like policy, at least in their
10%?
administration.
Well, I mean, do you see any variation when they have successful negotiations over tariffs?
It gyrates a bit.
Yeah.
It hasn't really gone down like as strongly as it went down in, say, the first 2 quarters. Over the last 2 quarters, it's kind of been in a range from, it peaked at near 100, and now it's around 97. So it's just kind of ebb and flowing back and forth. I think we talked about it earlier. It really feels like it's just a big bond, like a lot of emerging markets getting out of bonds. And I think high net worth investors are kind of piling into gold now. I think that's really what's happening under the hood. And the retail market's doing what the retail market's doing, but where the actual price discovery is happening, I think there's some pretty big players that are making a move to the upside.
We talked about this chart before you showed up.
Yep.
This was pretty shocking in my mind to see that for the first time since 1996. We're seeing more foreign central banks holding more gold in treasuries. That to me looks like it's ready to make a jump.
Yeah, when you go to Google the question, who are which central banks are buying the most gold?
Yep.
The numbers aren't that high, and it's a lot of small players.
Do
not any
people
big players.
do people think you're a perma bull or a perma bear when it comes to gold and silver?
I think they know my political leanings.
You think?
And
have I done a good job of letting people
I
know
think
that?
people are now beginning to call me a bear because I think that gold is too high. I think the COMEX is now posting futures prices instead of spot prices. And even the AI Googler that I use made excuses for that. I mean, you could just, the same thing. You just say, why is the COMEX posting futures prices and not spot prices? And they had a pretty elaborate answer, but they say, well, it depends on your point of view, and if you're a retail dealer, you see it one way, and if you're an investor, you see it other ways. But I'm
It has
not.
to create
I'm
a
messy.
lot of confusion, I would imagine. It always has.
That was the
People-
first comment from the AI. Was that yes, this is something that causes a lot of confusion.
Yeah, pretty much.
Now you said that a lot of some buyers are telling you that they can't wait any longer.
At most of them, I sold a house and I was planning to get some gold, but it keeps going up. So rather than wait, I think it's I might as well strike now. And people have always asked, when's the best time to buy gold? And I said, when you have the money, because we can't control the markets. The other thing that I'm convinced of is if we get a correction and let's say Basel III was implemented and these future contracts no longer have any value. I think inflation will take it right back to where it is now. Even if it goes down below 3,000, I think inflation will take it right back there.
You also missed this too, Tim. I asked James what the 200-day moving average is on gold. It is now, you said 30.80?
Yeah, 3,080. Yeah, it's up at 3,080. It was hovering, just got over 3,000 about a month ago or so, which is kind of important. I was hoping that it would dip down toward it. Maybe there'd be a peace accord between Russia and Ukraine, but obviously that didn't happen. I think the Jackson Hole meeting where Jerome Powell essentially said it's time for rate cuts, essentially. I think the market's seeing that and making a move into gold. That's probably why we see so much upside of late. But the 200-day 3,080, and if you keep hovering at these prices, it's going to precipitously rise. So, as you know, Tim, in a bull market, the 200-day is really important because at some point you're going to revisit it. And that's when you really, you basically have to check your thesis and see if your fundamentals make sense still as to why you own that gold, or if you want to add to your position, does it still make sense, all that kind of stuff.
I've always been a proponent of the 200-day moving average, and I guess I've stopped using it because it just didn't make any sense.
it's hovered above it for so long. It's hard to stick it out and wait.
I had no
So
idea it was only 3,080. That's, oh man.
I know, right?
Just,
that one
just
hit me.
one more reason. Yeah, that's good.
So we're
Good
gonna
information.
we've got more Q&A questions to get.
3,086 to be precise. That's the last one. 3,086.
So we've got more Q&A to get to, but now I don't want to waste your time because I got to get to this. This is the silver round. Yankee, Tim, silver round. Tim, you must be pretty excited. I am.
It arrived today.
It came.
It arrived late in the afternoon.
Yes.
And I had a suspicion of what it was, but I was so busy with customers I couldn't stop and open it up.
That's awesome.
So I had, one longtime friendly customer there. So I said, "You don't mind if I open this, do you?" And he said, "No." Well, it might even have those Yankee coins in it. And I said, and he ended up buying 4 of them. And so I did go through 2 rolls by the end of the day.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, and they're beautiful coins. I don't know who that guy is whose portrait there. He doesn't look anything like Trump, but it does look like me. I'm
That's
surprised.
beautiful,
It's really a nice coin. I have
It
to
really
admit.
is. And what I wanted to do is kind of chat about the process, how it came to fruition, the design, the back and forth, the different features and stuff about the coin, and some challenges we might have fallen into, and maybe you can answer a few questions around that, Cole, for us.
Yeah, happy to answer whatever questions people may have.
All
The
right.
the design was
Yeah. Let's
whenever
start
we
with the
first
design.
were talking about the idea of doing kind of a custom thing, with and for you. The challenge is, okay, what would it be? Because not all designs look good on a round or a coin. Most of them look pretty poor. But we've had a little bit of success with some other stuff with the right artwork, getting a side profile pretty spot on. And so I think we texted you, Yankee, said, we need Tim to sit there and act like he's being booked for something. Just turn to the right and
Didn't
to his
I?
left
You
and
did, yeah.
take
Remember
a side
that?
profile.
You're like, why are you taking a picture of me? Right? It's like yeah.
I spend most of my time smiling, and it got the kind of the smile from the side, which is pretty impressive. I think their artwork is amazing.
Yeah, I wanted
Yeah,
to
and
get
so
the smile. Yeah.
credit to the people that I had to actually take that and get it in the form where it could be transferred to a die or sculpted in the die. And then we have some stars. There's 13 stars, a little bit of play on 13 original colonies, which, of course, your shop is in one of those. And then we just have Coin Dealer Tim.
It actually goes
really
back that
torn-
far.
Yeah, exactly. You came over on the Mayflower, Tim.
Yeah, I think so.
We have we didn't really know what to put there underneath, I guess, where your
Yeah.
neck would be.
Right.
We settled on Coin Dealer Tim, which I think is just spot on.
It's
Perfect.
fine.
And then on the back we have, of course, the AOK from Yankee's channel, and then the latent purity.
Well, before you move on from that, there was a reason that I wanted that AOK on there. I'm not going to get into it too much detail, but it is not the circle game. It is not white power. It is not 3 6s. It is AOK. It is something that has been co-opted by too many people online and 4chan and other areas. And I'm making a stand. I'm not backing out on this. They're not going to be able to take this emoji away. They're not going to take AOK away. This is something my grandfather used to say. Hey, I hope your day is AOK. But I wanted AOK on the round. So it helped reiterate and really clarify that this is all it means. And it is something that is endemic to my channel. I love it, and it's not going to change. One thing that did change, though, is the 1 troy ounce and 3/9 fine silver. We had it at the bottom, I think, at one point, right?
Yeah, that stuff can be kind of moved around. The fingers and in general hands are very difficult to get right in art. I'm sure people have heard that. It's similar to metal, so I was a little apprehensive about that. We let there be a little bit of crossover between the fingers, the ring finger, and then it looks like the middle finger and the border, which I think worked out really great. And in general, whenever we're striking this, the relief on Tim's face is much higher than any other bullion strike would be. But the focus was on let's get that right. Let's get the detail in the hair right, the cheekbone right, the strong jawline. I need to be your publicist, Tim. And so that's really what we have, and then we'll go ahead and, if you want, we found in some of the early strikes from the mint, most of them looked really, really good. But as with anything, whenever you're making it in bullion form, there are always going to be, I want this to be very clear for people, there are always going to be some flaws whenever you're striking bullion. They're usually pretty minor, depending on where you're getting it. The sovereign mints want there to be no flaws because it's their business card, their brand they're putting out, but they charge a much higher premium accordingly. And there's always this kind of, where do you want to live in terms of how many flaws is enough or too many.
Is that why we're seeing on here, I understand this product is on delay and my entire order containing this product will have an expected date of September 19th?
In short, it's a combination of that it's been a good seller, a stronger than expected seller.
Sweet.
I will go as far to say that at the end, I know you do a spinning wheel at the end of this broadcast.
The wheel of names, the loved, beloved, and trusted, not rigged wheel of names. Right, Tim? Right, Tim?
Oh, it's just another advertisement for SD Bullion.
No, it's...
That's what you told me.
No, I did not. Oh, my word.
And we're going to give away one of these to a lucky customer, but...
Nice.
I'm monitoring the online sales as we do this live, and if we sell enough of these, or it's not a super high bar, but if we sell enough, then heck, we'll give away two. So we'll see. If people want to be kind of entered to win, then
I better start capturing names then.
Yeah. Well, we got to get enough sales while we're doing this live to justify it. But
we'll definitely do one though, right?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
And so the other things that to kind of call out, the field, which is the area around Tim's face, is mirror-like. In the industry, we call that proof-like. What does that really mean? It allows the face to stand out, but any sort of imperfection also stands out. And you see the same on the other side around the hand. So one of the things that we're doing to kind of fix that, and why you see the delay, is now these are going to be struck twice, not just once. The actual blanks themselves are going to be polished quite a bit more as well. So to all the people, there were a couple dozen orders where people were like, hey, this one doesn't look great. And they sent us pictures. And we're like, yeah, we agree. Let's fix it for you.
Oh, good.
So we're making those corrections right now.
Yep.
We're picking up another batch from the mint this week. And so we anticipate those problems to be kind of a thing in the past. We learn from it. It's not to say there will never be anything wrong. If you ship bunch of silver in tubes in transit, they do move a little, and there can be a little mark, but that's perfectly fine. You're still getting an awesome product.
And it's the Highland Mint that you're working with, HM?
That's correct.
That's what the HM is on the bottom there. Okay.
That's correct.
Are they back in the bullion market?
Can you speak a little closer to the mic, Tim?
No, it was me. Go ahead.
Is Highland Mint back in the bullion market?
Yeah. They do. They've been doing quite a bit of bullion for years. They also do a really good job on the a little bit more of the collectible side, specifically like professional teams and things like that. They work. If you ever see like a silver round in a baseball stadium in the gift shop or something, or if a team wins a championship and they're making like a medallion that is made of silver or some other metal, there's a decent chance that actually comes from Highland. That's kind of a big part of their business.
Yeah, you're familiar with them. You like them.
I used to get everything from Highland Mint, but then I couldn't get bars and rounds. This maybe a few years ago, and the wholesaler said, "No, they can't meet our price point." But I've been hearing that they are back in the bullion market. I love their stuff.
Yeah. We can, if there's something you're looking for, we can take the conversation offline. I'm sure we can help you.
Sounds good.
Cole, is there a difference in like if you get a coin from an early strike versus later on? Is there an effect on the die if after thousands of coins are made? So would you see the difference?
In short, yes. That's a common thing that mints have to worry about is the life of a given die. It is a piece of steel striking a piece of metal thousands of times over. There is natural wear that would happen in this deal. In this situation, we're probably going to see, if anything, an improvement on the next batch over what the first batch was, because they're striking it twice. It's going to take twice as long to make each one. It is an automated machine. It's not a guy with a hammer, thank goodness. But yeah, in general, that is something that is relevant. But for this series, not so much. But it's really cool. It's the first of its kind, so really excited to offer it.
I appreciate that. It's kind of unbelievable to me.
It is.
Yeah, we felt that it
Suppose
was
I could
fitting.
sell one to one of my daughters?
The side profile is one usually reserved for presidents and monarchs. So that's one of the reasons
President,
we wanted to
monarch.
go that way. I mean, no one's listening to this, so we can probably say that I don't know that a ton of our customers really want a monarch on everything.
He,
Well,
he
it's
just
supposed
wants
to
to
be-
try to sell one to his daughters. I mean, do you think
It's
they'll
supposed, to
buy
be,
them?
it's supposed to be in this country. It usually was a tradition that you didn't put somebody on a coin, a living person on a coin. They had to be dead first.
Whoops.
You got me there, Tim. I don't
They
have
broke
anything
that
for you.
tradition with
Who did they break?
Eunice Shriver.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Shriver. Okay.
I don't know. She may still be living.
Well, I am capturing names. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel. I am getting dangerously close to 200,000 subscribers. Make sure you put something in the chat. We'll get your name up on the wheel of names, and we will roll for at least one. Maybe we'll get to two if we sell a bunch tonight. But this is a really good coin, guys, or I should say a round, and I'm really proud to be able to be associated with it with Tim. This is cool. This was a lot of fun to be able to do, and I appreciate SD Bullion for helping through the process. By the way, Little Stacks did have a hand in this. He helped design it. So I got a shout out to my son.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I think what did we get to some more questions? In the Q&A section of the chat, feel free to ask questions in there for any of our panelists here. Let's see. We did talk about in your predictions. Can I just throw out again, just so Tim can remember, back in December when we had Harry on with us during a Silver Pros episode, I predicted $40 an ounce silver and $4,000 an ounce gold by the end of this year.
Yep. You did.
I'm halfway there. I don't know about the gold, man, but I'll tell you, gold still looks like it's got legs.
Well, just appearing at 4,000 is probably not out of the question. I don't think it'll stay there. Yeah. And I still think that silver could bounce off of 40.
Yep.
And it's just that we're not seeing reality yet in these markets, but it's got to be in place sometime.
Right. All right, let's get to the questions. Do you have plans to make it easier for JP Morgan Chase customers to become customers with SD Bullion? I have a few issues ordering with SD. I don't understand. Is there like a bank issue or something? I don't know. I don't know what that means. Make it easier for JP Morgan Chase customers. I'm not sure.
I take Chase checks all the time.
I'm sure SD Bullion does too. Should I have separate stack? Coins, rounds, bars, ounces versus constitutional ounce stack.
Go for it, Tim.
Should I have separate stack?
Boy,
Separate stack.
there are different prices for all that stuff. I mean, we have one set of rounds we sell for something like $41, $42. And the average rounds based on what they cost is closer to 43, 44. And then all the sovereign coins are obviously more expensive. I think when you explain to people why a certain coin is more expensive than another coin, we don't seem to get much resistance. They usually pick what they like.
Mm-hmm. How does the increase in SLV and GLD volume impact the physical prices? Chris from New Hampshire wants to know. James?
Yeah, the inflows in SLV and GLD are important. I mean, basically a lot of it is institutional money or high net worth investors or retail investors too. Um, what ends up happening is GLD or SLV have to go out and source that silver to back those shares. Theoretically, that's what they should be doing. It's in sell-offs where a lot of that metal will come out, and in sell-offs, a lot of the Eastern world will take advantage of the price sell-off, and a lot of that metal ends up going to the east, whether it be China in the 2010s, that happened a lot. GLD, it happened with India as well, decently. So, net, it's important that you have inflows into all nooks and crannies in the precious metals. So you want to see miners doing well, especially majors. So they've been doing well of late. You want to see the the mid tier miners doing better, and they have been. Eventually, we'll have the mania and juniors, and every scammer and pump and dumper will show up in this market, and that's inevitable. That will likely happen later on. Um, but yeah, to see the ETFs be getting inflows is a positive thing. What you want to see is high net worth investors starting to move in this market, and that will just create more tightness because the industrial demand is just that's the biggest surprise. The first 5 years of this decade has been just a robust amount of industrial demand around the world, especially with solar panels. That has been the most important thing, and it has really driven the price of solar higher.
Well, I'm going to ask a hot button question here for Miguel. If there's silver shortage, why can the refineries work harder to melt the metals? They don't make any money? Or why can't they, maybe he's saying there? If there's a silver shortage, why can the refineries work harder? Or why can't they work harder to melt the metals? They don't make any money?
So you got to think in terms of how expensive it is to build out the infrastructure of a refinery, and the capital costs required, and also the timing required, right? So I would imagine refineries in the United States are trying to build out and increase capacity because I'm sure they look down the road and see that they're going to be in more business as the years come down the line. But it's expensive and interest rates are pretty high. And problem with the precious metals is it's kind of a spike and dive market. It's pretty volatile. And I think a lot of people, when they look in the past, maybe have made bad investments that didn't pan out. The market didn't work out to their way, and businesses sometimes make the wrong plans and they go bankrupt. So it's one of those things where they only have so much throughput, and whether or not they're expanding to increase their throughput and time it well, those are all difficult things to do. And businesses have to wait. They have to weigh that because it's not cheap to refine gold, and it's especially not cheap to refine silver. So.
And it's not as easy as going to Walmart and getting five things and then plugging it in, and you go. People wanted to expand, and people did expand minting capacity 2+ years ago to respond to overall retail demand whenever premiums were way too high, naturally you're like, well, if you can sell more of it at a higher price, what would be the bad decision? What would be the bad part of that decision? Well, they wanted to order more machinery and capital equipment, but there was a 2 year plus delay. So all that stuff came online about a year ago, whenever, of course, no demand. So, yeah, if you're operating a refinery, they would like to, but this has been a boom cycle for maybe 6 to 9 months for them. And they do not have dynamic pricing. They want to have complete occupation of their labor, and they want to have pretty predictable business. They don't want to sit there and charge their same customers because their customers are other businesses. They can't go and cut them at the knees and saying we're going to pay you even less now. That's not really how they want to operate. They want to operate on a long-term basis. So more business for 6 months does not mean their profits for 6 months are up 5x like it might other businesses. They're on a relatively fixed pricing model, from our understanding. So it would take a little bit of time for them to make enough money to necessarily afford that, like James said. And even if they wanted to go make the decision, they've already made the decision 6 months ago. That would take over a year to probably get everything online to be able to have that impacting their business. So it just takes a while.
Long lead time for sure. You're building property, plant, and equipment that big. That's a lot of money to do that.
You may need a new building. across
Right.
town, or you generally you can't just sit
I
there and
mean, you know,
shoulder someone out next door. That's not how these places work, and certainly not where they're built. And so
all
it
the
takes a while.
security of all the security just to do SD Bullion's new HQ, right? I mean, the new
Yeah,
place. I mean, that took years and years of work, and this is
yeah.
we're not refining metals. It's you have to be very secure about it. It's something that takes a lot of planning.
Yeah, and one thing specifically that people wouldn't think about, but is very relevant whenever you're operating in the space, is there's water and air purification requirements that any building and any manufacturing process has to have. And that is super expensive, very
Mm.
technical, and it takes a lot of time. So you may want to expand next door, add more machinery, but that's just not how
Mm.
it's not as easy to do that. It takes a lot of time. You may have to have an entirely new system for intake of water. You may have more employees. Therefore, you got to have another bathroom. Therefore, you got to have another this. It's operating a business.
what's the best outlet for 40%?
Uh, Good question. If you're selling it, or right?
I have a lot to get rid of.
Okay. Um, Personally, we look at stuff like that as just we're going to have metal on our balance sheet anyway. Um, Most companies don't that are in our space. We definitely do. Some people would call that reckless. Tyler would call it being consistent. So we're buyers. I put it that way.
I, I'm gonna go in a different direction with Miguel's question. I'm gonna focus in on that preposition. If there's a silver shortage, and this question is for both Cole and Tim, is there a physical metals shortage in the retail space?
I'm not seeing it at all. And it's almost universal. I sold all my backdate Eagles yesterday, and I had another half a monster box come in through the front door today.
Yeah.
It seems to be that's the timing of everything. If I sell out of something like Maple Leafs, and next guy coming in the door has some to sell me. And it's just been that way for, well, at least the last year, right?
Yeah, I would say, in short, the answer is yes. Shortage is only relevant to the denominator, which is demand. So if all of a sudden demand spikes up and sustains 4 or 5x increase, which whenever our demand spikes, that's what it looks like. How long could our market support that? Not very long. We said that people are being pinched on their inventory rich, cash poor. Financing rates and leasing rates are very high, and revenues and everything else is down. So what do? You hold a little bit less metal and you operate a little bit thinner. In the face of more demand, that means there's not enough there. So in general, we're ill prepared for a demand wave as an industry. I put it that way.
Yeah, I think the estimate, if you actually like thought about every investment grade 100-ounce bar down to your 1-ounce rounds, down to all that gold and silver, platinum, if you added it all up in the United States, I mean, it's like $5 to $10 billion, I would imagine, that's up for sale at any point in people's inventories and dealers' inventories, be it brick and mortar or online, all the way through the entire industry. That's not that much in the grand scheme of things. You get a real fear push like the Silicon Valley bank runs. I mean, and you get all those multiples in demand. That's how the inventory clears. And that word shortage is confusing because it's not necessarily that there's a shortage of metal in people's houses or in people's non-bank depositories and what have you, but there's a shortage of available, ready, just in time to deliver for you metal. And so what it ends up happening is dealers protect it with premium, et cetera. And so we saw that in 2023 and saw that in growth in the financial crisis in 2008. And I'm damn sure we're going to see it again at some point.
And more and more I hear of dealers taking gold and silver to a refinery. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but stuff like sterling silver that comes in all the time is no problem getting rid of that. 40%, I feel kind of the same way about getting rid of that. But, I mean, so far I haven't had to take a single gold coin to a refinery, and I don't have any plans to. except maybe using maybe an oversupply of one coin, trading it into for it to
Yeah.
get more buffaloes or something. But I mean, how are you saying? Are many dealers going to refineries just to keep the cash in house?
Yeah, I'd say you're more than the minority there, Tim. I'd say you're in the you're
Kind
in
of
like the
guess that.
3%. You're in the 3% minority in
Oh,
terms of 97% of collectively yours and our peers are sending quite a bit to refining, and that's the only thing that's really keeping the lights on for them.
So the end of that question is the Comex going to start making deliveries again?
Yeah, I mean, some people, that's all they're doing is feeding the Comex.
It's amazing.
From a
A
silver
lot of
perspective,
refineries.
that's the only thing that's really truly profitable, and that's good for them. And so yeah, there's just not that much. If someone came in, say we didn't have enough of a product, we carry quite a bit, so it's not a problem we run into super often. But say someone wanted to buy 2,000 ounces of a specific gold bullion coin, call it, gold kangaroos or something like that. There's so little inventory held on the wholesale market because of how tight demand has been, that just trying to fill that may spike premiums like $5 to $7 per ounce across the board, just because that one little buy out there on the market is being shopped around because no one can actually fill. So everyone's trying to front run and fill it. So they drive the price up on themselves. We're going to see that with Gold Eagles. Gold Eagle premiums are going to be jumping, but right now they're available at a good price. So, go get them.
all right. Sam. Well, this is an interesting one. I know stacking is really, quote, savings and not an investment per se. That sounds a little bit like stacking the Yankee way. I like to think of it more as wealth insurance rather than a true traditional investment. But can it become a smart investment when it's been outperforming the stock market and is expected to continue? And to that point, James, I got to show one more chart from your recent Friday video. That was an interesting chart to me. Including dividends, total return, stock index. Of course, you can pick and choose your time frames, right? You got to be very careful here, but wow. That's reinvesting every dividend for compound gains, which nearly no investor actually does over the long term. But there it is. Gold, silver, right up there with the U.S. S&P 500 total returns over this time frame here, the 21st century scoreboard. Wow.
Yeah.
That was an
Yeah,
interesting chart.
Yeah, I mean, it's people don't really know that 21st century gold has outperformed virtually anything other than maybe Bitcoin. It's just done remarkably well, and there's back tested studies from 1968 to now in 2025 where you take all the data sets of gold, how it's performed versus the S&P 500 and versus U.S. Treasury bills and bonds. And if you go back to 1968 to today and you use a Sharpe ratio, which is basically like what's the best percentage risk reward to allocate into gold bullion over that 57-year time frame, the number is dramatically high. Most people wouldn't guess, but it's roughly 25% should be allocated to gold for the best risk reward ratio, whereas the other 75% would be probably split amongst bonds and S&P 500. But this is all looking backwards. If we're looking forwards, I still think gold's going into a major bull market, and so you're going to have gold outperform the S&P 500 probably for a long time, probably 5-10 years coming. So for the S&P 500 is 6,500 right now. For gold to match that, that's kind of the norm in historic fashion in the United States. There's been many times over the last 100, 120 years where gold has been higher than the S&P 500 for long durations. And so my contention is that not only are we going back to match the S&P 500, but eventually in the mania, you're going back down toward levels that we didn't see other than 1980. We'll go back in we'll go beyond where it was in 2011. In 2011, it was, I think, 0.7 ounces of gold would get you the S&P 500. So We're going beyond that. I think it would probably be a half ounce of gold or even less that could probably get you the S&P 500. I think right now, I mean, what, it's a 2, so you basically have a chance to outperform the S&P 500 by a factor of 4, and you're in gold, which is rather safe. So I think the guy has the right concept. When I talk about this too, you have to remember I'm talking about your liquid net worth. I'm not talking about your residential house or your private business. Keep that aside. I'm talking about your liquid net worth. Having 20%, 25% allocated to physical bullion in this day and age, I think makes good common sense. Mathematically, it's proven if you live and suffer in a full fiat currency regime, as we do, I think it makes sense to have a lot of bullion.
All right. Any more Una in the line 1 ounce is classic rider.
I'm assuming they're talking silver.
Yep.
That was very, very limited, so no.
All right.
But stay tuned on that.
Oh,
pretty good 10 ounce bar.
Yeah, we only get them in occasionally, and they're very popular.
Yeah.
And the 100 ounces are amazing too.
They're beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I bet. It's like an art piece.
Yeah.
Oh, Pang asked Yankee, if you were a new stacker, what's the first thing you would buy on SD Bullion's site or in Tim's shop? I'll tell you, I'm blessed to have somebody so close by that I can actually go in. And so online, love ST. In person, love my shop, Tim. Boy, I would say rounds. Right now, I would want, if I'm brand new, I would buy 1 ounce silver rounds. Like it's coming out of my ears. The cheaper, the better. Of course, if I could get a few more Cull silver eagles, all scratched
I
up.
have some more painted ones for you.
You have some more painted ones I can put them in xylene on and get that painted off. Okay.
Yankee is frequently asking me questions, and he doesn't especially like the answers, but he said, how do you set your prices? And he's filming this, and I say, I always go to this company here. It's SD.
That's right. You do. Like what?
And he doesn't keep it in the video.
I do sometimes.
But I do that all the time.
No, all the time. Yeah, I don't do it all the time.
No, I do. I do go to SD Billion for the prices. You have better prices than most of the companies out there. And so if I don't want to sit down and think about it or do some math, I just go look at yours.
Just go right to you. Silver being more and more an industrial metal. Should we worry about the world economy? Mike wants to know. Because I'll tell you, if it's a recession, silver usually drops like 50%. That's what it happens. It's happened before. Last time we had the global recession and the global financial crisis, it went down 50% before it went up to all-time record highs.
Yeah, it went from 21 in March of 2008 down to 9, just below 9 for a brief second, by early of 2009 or late 2008. And that was right when the infinite QE spigot started to turn on.
Yep.
And so, I bought a bunch of cases at 9 spot. I remember that. That was probably one of the best buys I ever made. But the one thing I would say is that, yes, you are correct. In a bad recession, spot price generally does do a pretty big drop. Mm-hmm. With the argument being that, you remember you saw it in COVID, it happened. You saw in the global financial crisis it happened. But you got to remember, too, that everything is so levered out. The authorities, remember how fast they came in COVID and just flooded the system with currency? They're not going to wait long, and because they can't have a liquidity crisis and not come through with massive amounts of printing. So, what you'd end up seeing is, yes, you'd probably see a short gyration down. But if we get into a situation where there's liquidity problems amongst the major players in the financial world, the powers that be are going to flood the system yet again. That's generally what they have to do, and they have to do it fast. So it wouldn't be a long duration that it would occur. That would be my contention.
Mm-hmm. We usually get at least one platinum question. So I've gotten a couple. I'll just consolidate them. Seriously.
One of my platinum bulls. I'm all about the platinum.
Are you a platinum bull? Is it going to break gold? Is it going to be higher than gold?
I mean, later on, we'll see. When I'm 60 years old, I think we'll be back toward a nominal gold and platinum 1-to-1. Maybe 15 years from now. But right now, it's a third the price. I mean, it's amazingly cheap versus gold. And if you study the fundamentals of it, platinum, I think, long term is a good store of value. I definitely wouldn't. I'm single-digit percentage of my precious metals portfolio in platinum, but I remember getting it 1,000 and thinking, man, that is going to be worth, you know, a lot more than $1,000. You know, getting platinum, it was down to 1,000 for a long time, many years, and I thought it was just a no-brainer. Like when you do the actual fundamental analysis of the market and then what that metal does as far as an element that's different than gold and silver, and you look out in the future and all the stuff that technology that we still haven't fully used platinum, I think, to what it's probably going to end up being in application. So it has an upside potential that to get back to gold 1-to-1, I think is inevitable. We just got to get through the system reset of the structure of the monetary system and the global financial rejiggering of the system. Gold is going to go into premium, but eventually platinum, I think, will race back up toward gold.
I think
Do you,
the
do you think
problem,
most boomers want nothing to do with platinum?
well, the ones who bought it when it was at 2,400, yeah. I think that a lot of people are concerned because nobody can understand why it goes up or why it dips. And honestly, I don't see any consistency to the moves that we're seeing in platinum. So I'm not going to start collecting it, but you know, if you can guarantee me that it's going to take a big jump, I'll start collecting.
Depends on time frames, and yeah, it's different. It's not as, you know, the bid ask spreads are a lot wider. It's a lot more difficult to move off shelves. You got inventory in it, so I get a dealer's argument for not having a wide amount of it, and that's why I keep it single digits mainly. I mean, we are in a monetary problem.
Yeah, in my experience, the wholesalers, and I used to use a local wholesaler, they charge a lot over when you're buying it, and they don't want to give you too much when you're selling it. And I think that's consistent in the retail market.
How
That guy's question was,
Well-
should we trust the what was it? Should we trust the world economy? Is that what-
yes.
Or what? What was it? How was it actually?
Tim, he was asking, how would silver look good or what would a worldwide recession do for silver if industrial demand's a big part of it?
Yes.
But what was it? What was the actual question?
You had me scrolling. Oh man, where'd it go?
Was it? Should we be worried about the world?
Here it is. Here it is. Silver being more and more an industrial metal, should we worry about the world economy and as it relates to impacting, I think, silver prices?
I just didn't see the tie-in with silver because obviously the answer between should we be worried about the world economy is well, yeah. I didn't see the tie-in with the silver though.
Yeah. All right, so we got a few more, and then I think we'll wrap it up and do a giveaway soon, right? It's 10 o'clock. Wow. Is SD Bullion going to sell the 2025 Libertads? Ooh.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Those are going to be – that's going to be the Wild West. The Bank of Mexico operates probably different, is safe to say, than every other sovereign mint. One, they can only make material out of stuff that comes from Mexican mines, which I think is kind of cool. That has really nothing to do with the fact that this year they made maybe 2% of what they made the year prior or less across the board, and it's because they made too much the year prior and they didn't really have a plan to sell it. So what laughably small amounts we do have available that we got from the mint, they're already going to be overbought by people that are really extreme collectors, and it's kind of like buying art. It's going to be so uncoupled to the price of what silver or gold is that they're going to get graded and things like that. But it would, I couldn't believe how few we were allocated, but everyone was in the same bucket, so it's
Do you
yes,
have
we'll have them.
what is the price range roughly in Libertads?
Well, for 2025s,
Yeah.
Actually, any of them, even the older ones.
so generally speaking, the backdated ones on a wholesale basis, they're going to go for probably +$3 or +$4 spot plus, and they're going to we would sell them probably for 7, 8, 9, something like that, assuming there's decent volume. But that's assuming a mintage, and I think last year's mintage was several 100,000 of the 1 ounce, and we'll just use 1 ounce to compare apples to apples. And I'll look it up while we're talking, or someone may actually have it in the chat. The mintage number has come out, and this year they made like a couple hundred.
Couple hundred. Wow, that's it.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up. So BU quality. Okay. 2025 mintage. 5 ounce coins, they made 200. 2 ounce coins, they made 200. 1 ounce coins, they made 300. This is for silver libertads that are bullion strikes, and they made 100 half ounces, 100 quarter ounces, and then 200 each of the 10th ounce and 20th ounce. I mean,
are any of this going to get out of Mexico?
yeah, they're out of Mexico, but like, yeah, I think there. Someone told me internally that you could see some of them available on eBay. I'm gonna look. They were like the 1 ounces were priced on the silver was priced I think north of like $1,500. So that's what the market's going to be. So
they're going to be ultra collectible. Essentially, you're going to be impossible to find.
Exactly. I mean, a mintage of 300 ounces is
that's crazy.
So it's like
so that's the guy with a hammer.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, there are ways to try to make fake product and talk about a massive incentive now being tangled. Like, so yeah, we're gonna have them to answer the customer's question. If you're like expecting normal prices, normal premiums, sure. So I would also, if you find them available, you let me know, and I'd be happy to pay that.
$50 for a 1 ounce round is not out of the question then.
$50?
Yeah.
Multiple hundreds.
Yeah, 1,500 is what there was a listing for. I think
for the 2025s.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you mean backdated?
Backdates. 2023
Yeah, I think you meant backdates
or something like that.
Oh yeah. If that's what they're worth to the guy on the street right now, if a backdate coin is available, roughly $50. I've always been really partial to them, but this year is just going to be a wild card.
That is true. The old backdates, depending, as long as they're not a crazy year, about $50 an ounce is right.
That's about
it.
All right. So Colin asked the question: how is this doing?
It's doing really, really well.
Charlemagne.
I mean, that thing.
I did see a picture of it. Didn't we have one in the store?
Continue to get a little bit better with each strike and just making small tweaks that sometimes you don't even talk about because people wouldn't notice the difference. But we're really proud of it. The next one's going to be awesome. I want these to sell out quickly. That way the customers win. So, but the sales of Charlemagne have been really good. Posters have been.
How do you get pictures of
really
these
excited
guys?
about that poster. Learned a lot. Learned a lot every time we release
what
one.
he looks like. Somebody there have a time machine or what?
Do we have pictures? How do we know what he looked like? He's asking.
Paintings, Tim. 2025 Silver Libertad NGC MS70. I see one listed on eBay. Now this is kind of a joke, but it's being listed for $25,000. So
that's it.
Yeah, I was assigned the Legends of Charlemagne, but I couldn't stay awake to read it.
You do. All right, so I've got another person here saying if I had a few 100-ounce bars, you got a few 100-ounce bars. If you have a few 100-ounce silver bars, what's the best way to go about trading one or two of those for 100 or 200 ounces in rounds, 1 ounce rounds and bars? What's the best way to pull that off?
I know someone who would do that.
Really?
Yeah, it'd be a good one to certainly take to a local shop if you have one. I think that's a great place to start, or anyone else that you know that would have material that's open-minded to a trade.
The 1 ounce rounds are going to cost a lot more than what you're getting for the 100-ounce bar.
The 1 ounce, yeah, because
Can
of
you,
the.
can you repeat that, Tim? You cut out for a second.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the 1 ounce rounds are going to cost a lot more than what you're getting for the 100 ounce bar.
Of course, you're going to definitely lose some ounces in that trade.
Yeah.
Correct.
All right, we've got a couple more here. Eric, this is a pretty good one. If PSL is PSLV or PHYS, good for people who don't live in a situation they don't feel they don't feel safe owning or transacting in gold and silver. So there's a safety concern. Is using these, ETFs a good way for people to get into metals? James?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the closed-end funds, that's probably the most trusted one. The Sprott Physical for gold at PHYS, and then the PSLV for silver. You could also, obviously, SD Bullion, we do long-term storage for people. So people who are offshore, if they want, they could park their, some metals with SD Bullion. Our fees in terms of what we charge are below like GLD's management fees and SLV's management fees, so they're reasonable. So yeah, either one, those options are there. So the one caveat is if you have metal with SD Bullion, I just like having metal out. You're basically getting it out of the system, right? So the worst fear is that we actually see something like the Great Taking occur, and all of a sudden the system goes down and you can't get or access your precious metals.
Yep.
Whereas if you're with SD Bullion, you have a company that's going to be there at all times. I mean, the business is going to run and operate, and they'll probably be able to service you. Whereas if the system shuts down, PSLV and PHYS, you're an unsecured creditor of that thing. So you're not a secured creditor. The metals are not in your name or title. So that's the one thing to kind of keep in mind. You have to put your lawyer hat on and think of the worst case scenarios.
Why are we only mining 36 million ounces in America? Nevada, Alaska, Idaho, it's full of this stuff. Why do we rely on Mexico, etc.? Silver Cards wants to know. I think that's changing. I think Trump wants to repatriate this stuff. He wants it here. So I think that might change.
Yeah, at the moment we consume 5 to 6 times more silver than we actually mine in the United States, and whether or not that changes, we'll see. But at the moment, that's why the idea of putting tariffs on it made no sense. So yeah, I mean, we have to get silver, and generally it comes from Mexico or Peru or Poland or other places. I mean, there's a lot of different countries that do it, but mainly Mexico and Peru are the main two sources for silver.
All right. Well, I just ended the Q&A, but here's the deal. We're going to be giving away a 1 ounce, SD Bullion is going to be giving away a 1 ounce YankeeStacking Coin Dealer Tim silver round right here. I don't know if we've passed any threshold yet, Cole, for purchases to earn a second one, but at least one. And we'll do that in just a minute.
We can do 2.
We're going to do 2?
Yeah. People have been buying.
Oh, all right. Let's do
It's
2.
been fun to kind of watch.
But while I get my act in gear here and fill up the wheel, I want to just let you guys chat for a bit. Tim, you've talked to me about ask Cole this, ask Cole that. If you ever get a hold of Cole,
At least once a day.
yeah, well, this is your chance. Do you want to talk? I'll get the wheel up.
Oh gosh.
No one's listening.
Or maybe James has a question for you.
I guess which wholesaler I've been using, and it's getting more difficult to ask for a certain product. And I understand if their business is probably, if I'm buying as much as I'm buying, they're probably buying truckloads, and so it's difficult. I had one case where I don't know what the guy wanted, the Tree of Life coin, and I couldn't see any of those in my vast storage of rounds. I think the only one Yankee probably took out of there.
Wait, what?
But I'm getting more requests for certain coins, and I have no idea where to go to get those. One is a very simple round. So one looks like a mercury dime. I used to get them in
we
all the
got those.
time. There are two versions of it. One of them looks a lot more like a mercury dime than the other one. But I mean, is it all right if I just give you a call and say, hey, by the way, do you have any of these
Please.
lying around?
Please.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's where the help is happy to be extended, and it's reciprocated, right?
Yeah.
There's things that you don't want that you're selling. There's things that we have that we can let go at a price that maybe doesn't even make sense to publish. That might help you out. So, yeah, definitely. I'd be surprised if you're saying, "Hey, I'm interested in these 5 products," and we just kind of shrug our shoulders, saying, "I don't think we can find them. Can't help you."
Well,
Not really the position we're in.
a lot in certain bars and rounds as well. I mean, things that used to be available in large numbers. I used to order things from Sunshine, for example, or from Silvertown, and it just doesn't seem like that's the right way to go anymore.
That's not really what they're interested in. I mean, Sunshine is predominantly interested in serving sovereign mints, including blanking for one major mint that we all know who I'm referring to. And Silvertown, once these places get bought up by bigger companies, they serve different masters, and that's what you see.
35 years. 35 years you've been doing this, right, Tim? 35
Yeah, about
years.
that. It was a long time ago, so I can't really remember far back.
You've seen a lot of cycles. James actually was mentioning that before the live stream. He's like, how long? And I told him, he's like, wow, you've seen a lot of gyrations. Have you ever seen it quite like this now?
No, it's a lot more complicated than it ever used to be, and there are many more players. If I needed to buy 1 ounce bars, I usually go to my wholesaler who carried Highland Mint, for example. A lot of things we used to get from Silvertown and Sunshine they're good examples. I did have a relationship with A-Mark Precious Metals back in the 80s, and I think it was 80s, and they were very helpful. I thought for what I was selling in rounds, in Buffalo rounds, for example, I'd have to one order a year back in those days, and I mean, as long as you bought the minimum number of coins, that was fine. But it was just everything was very, very different on a much lower scale, and I often get the question, if you had to start a coin shop today, would you do that? And I say, absolutely not. It takes way too much capital. And all the dealers that I've known over the years, I don't think any of them are in this business. And they may still have a coin shop or something, but they don't want to spend the kind of money you have to spend, especially with gold taking such a prominent place. And I'm always shocked at how much I'm paying when I buy it from a customer, but it's that's the way the business has gone. It's way, way bigger than it used to be and a lot more complicated. And there are many more players. I mean, every time I order a box of Buffaloes, it's from somebody different. And then I have somebody come in, hey, you still have any of these Buffaloes? And I say, no.
Yeah, I mean that's all gonna kind of squeeze itself out. There were new minting operations that have both come and gone in the last 3 years because what are you going to do? It's not as easy as plugging in the equipment and saying now we have supply, and everyone wants to pay us 8% off of our investment. That great, but they're not as clever maybe as they think they are. I say they being the collective industry, and it takes quite a bit of foresight, and you have to be able to do a lot of things well to be able to capitalize or just have the staying power to be around for a while and catch the cycle on the next way. But yeah, I mean, we're going to see a continued consult. We've been seeing that continued consolidation on. I can name 2 mints that have been shut down this year, big ones, and so there's going to be less and less producers. That stuff is going to kind of run its way through the system.
All right. Well, I think we're ready. Let's do this. I'm going to stop the harvester. I'm going to copy in here. We're going to spin this.
Are you spinning the rigged one or the non-rigged one?
Oh, no, Cole.
I was just asking. Sorry, I thought I
You're
muted myself.
killing me, Cole. The wheel is not rigged.
Sorry, I thought I was on mute. I thought
I
I
knew
was
that.
us.
Jeez. All right, let's look these names
I'm
up.
glad I'm not the only person who
Oh,
does this to him.
Stop it. Oh, you guys. All right, sort it up. So there are all the names.
I
Let's
don't
just-
see my name in there.
What?
Yeah, put me in there. Put me in there, Yankee. I want one.
No. And the problem is, I'm in here, and I got to give an extra ounce of silver if it lands on Yankee. And I don't know who set up an account called Yankee's Wheel is Rigged, but come on, man.
Yeah.
Oh, my word. All right, let's shuffle this up really well.
That's your username.
Jeez. Shuffle it up. All right. This is over to U.S. Mailing addresses only. This will come straight from Misty Bullion. Email me for all the winners, or the two winners. Email me at YankeeStacking@gmail.com. Include your address and your phone number, and let's go. Okay. That was really nice of you, though, Cole, to pop the two. I'm hoping you sell out. And when I saw that message, I was like, are they almost out? Wow.
Yeah, we're not setting a mintage.
Okay.
So
Right.
it's not a spot where we're gonna let it go out. We're testing this. We're curious to see how it goes.
Yeah. Heather is trying to hold on to it, but it looks like Heather is going to win it. Wow, Heather, that was right down to the wire. Heather Medellin?
Medellin, like the cartel.
Oh, yes, like the cartel. Yes, sorry. Got to know my cartel. Sorry, Tim. Heather, email me at YankeeStacking@gmail.com. All right, let's remove that one.
It doesn't upset her.
I don't know if that's a joke or not, but let's just shuffle it up and spin it again. Here we go, guys. Second winner of a Yankee Tim round. These are beautiful. Very special. Man, and you got to get your daughters to buy some for the grandkids.
I don't think they know anything about it yet.
Really? That's not true, actually. I know they know. All right. Sorcerer Stan, the humble stacker, John Armstrong. I think it's going to be Ken Arrington with the win. Congratulations, Ken. All right. Just remember to email me your mailing address and phone number at YankeeStacking@gmail.com. And guys, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tim, for coming out of a very busy day, I'm sure, and coming all the way over here. You must be really tired by now.
Yeah, but I have to go back.
No.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
I only got one package in the mail today.
I don't think I've ever met a harder working individual than this guy right over here. So thank you, Tim. I really appreciate all your hard work. Thank you guys for joining us again on Mastering Metals, and we'll be doing this again next month. So until then, I hope you have a great night. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.